Hello and welcome into the RotoWire Esports Show. I'm Andrew Laird, joined as always by Ethan Sexton, this time to talk about Sunday's 5-game LPL LCK slate. Ethan, this Saturday one that we talked about yesterday, I pretty much just built 4 lineups based off of the 2 LPL games that we were talking about that we thought would be the highest kills. So it was the FPX top and then WE and JDG. And I was like, I'm going to pretend like it's a 2-game slate and I'm just going to try to get the right combinations. And I feel like we just kind of brushed off, not that we brushed off the BLG, OMG, but we were just like, obviously OMG is where's the most leverage, and like, there you go. We should have played OMG.
Yeah, but can we really fault ourselves for not playing them because they've been awful? I'm not going to beat myself up too much about it, honestly. If you had OMG today, you were on them, good for you. It worked out really well. Can't fault you for it because, even if it was just a leverage play, why not?
Why not?
We've seen tons of upsets already. But yeah, at least neither of us really liked BLG. I think we said they were safe, which they weren't.
Right.
But we didn't really like them for their upside anyway. So it's not like we were hot and heavy on BLG. I think we thought they would win, of course, but we liked the teams in the marquee LPL matchups a bit better. So we get some credit for that too, right? Because FPX ends up as a team, they're the highest scoring team.
Yeah.
They OMG outscored them in a couple positions. But yeah, it can't beat us up too bad. And then JDG, going along with that, JDG was the 4th highest scoring team overall, I think, and that we said that series. I think I actually said JDG wouldn't, be as high scoring.
Yeah,
maybe
definitely did.
They won as a WE or an FPX or a top esports, but they scored really well. So can't really beat them up or anything like that. They took down that series. And we knew T1 had upside, but their issue was just knowing who to play because we wouldn't know the lineup beforehand. So, not bad. Slate went about the way we expected, except for the huge OMG upset, obviously. But, yeah.
It felt better that Fred at Brion was so bad that we weren't going to play them, but the fact that they were so bad made me feel better of just completely ignoring them. I didn't even think that they were worth it from a leverage standpoint, that right. OMG would seem like the most worthwhile one. Were you surprised at the FPX top score?
Yes and no. I think FPX have been the much better team all year, more consistent team. So, it didn't surprise me that they won. Maybe the fact that they just straight up stomped is a little bit surprising, but maybe FPX are both those teams should be in the playoffs, right? But maybe FPX is just a cut, one of the teams that's going to be a cut above even the good teams in the league.
Yeah.
Along with in Edward Gaming at this point, or a couple other teams. So it maybe the one-sidedness of the series was a little bit surprising, but at the same time, we both know that FPX are a really good team with 5 superstar players.
Sure.
Well, 4 superstar players, and then this rookie jungler who's been an absolute stud.
Right, who might be their best player right now.
Yeah, honestly. So yeah, we know that roster's awesome. So it wasn't too big of a surprise, I guess. Maybe just the complete one-sided nature of the stomp was a little surprising, but yeah, I've been high on this FPX team all year, so it wasn't a total shock, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think just the way that I expected that one to go was whoever won it was going to be the highest scoring team, but I just expected the losing team to also be really high scoring, and nope.
No, yeah, Top Esports just got crushed, man.
Yeah.
Really, game 2, they were a little bit competitive at first, and then they just kind of coughed it up and couldn't really compete. But yeah, they're looking a shadow of what they were last year for sure. And China's just hard because there's all these good teams. There's so many teams to begin with. There's 17 teams, and then the really good teams that we see year after year. It makes the league really hard and competitive, even for the great teams. Just because there's so much talent in that league, it's insane. FPX had a down year last year, but They're the world champions in 2019, and then they add probably the best top laner in the world to their roster coming into this year, and it just makes it hard. So we're seeing teams like Top Esports and Suning and JDG kind of taking a little bit of a drop this year, but it can't be like we can't like bury them too hard, because these teams are just a lot of these teams are just really good, and it makes the league really difficult to navigate.
For sure. Let's try to navigate this 5-game Sunday slate. Similarly, a bit, we've got some really close LPL matches or series. Victory 5 favored over eStar, RNG favored over Invictus Gaming, and then Rare Atom favored against LNG. They're all fairly close. Unlike the LCK matches, Damwon, gigantic favorites over DRX, and then Hanwha Life, who maybe I'll finally actually play, even though I talk about them all the time, about how they're good plays, and I never play them. They are favored against Sandbox. Let's talk about these LPL matches or series first, because I don't necessarily feel the same way I did on today's slate in terms of let me just split. The equivalent would be, let me just make 4 lineups of RNG, IG, Rare Atom, and LNG, and just go from there. I feel like the LCK teams might be able to outscore them, and that's ignoring which eStar team shows up against Victory 5.
Yeah, that's some of these matches are kind of tricky, especially I feel like LNG and Rare Atom, you could play either side and feel sort of comfortable, and they don't offer neither side offers salary relief. They're so close together. So that one, you kind of got to pick a side, and you can go for it either way. But in the other 2 LPL series, I sort of lean in the underdogs here. And part of it is, does anyone out there really want to trust V5 as the most, they're not the most expensive in every role, but as the most expensive, or at least one of the most expensive plays in each role? Because I sure as hell don't. Y4 is the most expensive AD carry on the slate, and Y4 might be the worst AD carry on this slate. You know what I mean? So it's really hard for me to get behind V5 at these prices. So I think I'd either completely ignore that series or just take a shot on eStar. Even though we don't love eStar, they've shown upside in series where they win. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they beat V5. I mean, I don't think V5 are a great team. So that for them to be priced up this high, I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. And if I was going to play either side of that matchup, I'd certainly play the eStar side just for potential leverage and also for the salary savings. And then the marquee matchup of the day is that IG RNG series, and kind of lean in the underdog in that one too. We always talk about IG are not the safest team, but they can always step up to this level and beat anyone. Sometimes they can also lose to anyone, so that's the frustration with them at times. But at these prices, you gotta like their upside. In a win, they're gonna easily outproduce these prices, and potentially could break the slate. At these cheap salaries. I mean, you're looking at a guy like Rookie at less than 7K. Mid laners in general, we've talked about, aren't the highest point scorers this year, but Rookie still is one of the highest point scorers in the league. And even when IG kind of suck, he's still one of the best mid laners in the world regardless. So I just think IG are a bit too cheap. I get it because RNG only have 1 loss on the year, and they've looked really good for the majority of this season, but IG are the kind of team that can take down anybody, so sort of leaning the underdog in that matchup as well.
I was really surprised to see how cheap all the IG pieces were. The eStar thing is kind of funny. I think the benefit of eStar is that they're worth the shot. You realize that the risk is there, that they can lose, and I don't think you ever play them they're going to outscore even if they lose. I don't think we're seeing them again do that. But we know that they can score, and you just need the win. It's it's almost better knowing that than like you knowing that they're going to win, because knowing a team's going to win, usually, at least the ones we've seen this week, it feels like the biggest favorites, a BLG aside, just haven't had to score that much. And so you almost want a team that needs to like really attack to put up all these points. So that, and with IG, I mean, like, they disappoint when we know that they should win, but they're an underdog. So of course we play them now.
Yeah, it's a little easier to stomach when they're cheap,
Yeah,
compared to when they're the highest priced team on the slate, and then you're like, are they going to screw around and troll us? And even if they don't lose the series, are they going to mess around and drop a game, and then we're not going to get the point totals we want? But at these prices, it's very tempting. That's for sure. I mean, it's really hard not to at least give them a hard look and take a shot. Especially if you think they're going to win the series, right? Which they definitely can.
Yeah.
I think RNG are a way more consistent team, but IG just have this upside, and at these prices, they're really hard to ignore. That's for sure.
So I was just looking at some combinations. There's no combination of IG, an IG long stack with an E star short, or vice versa, that costs more than 45,000. Like, you're leaving 5,000 on the table if you play both of them. But like we've said it before, like I don't really care about salary. Like, I just care if it's over 50,000 or not. But I wonder if some people will try that and then be like, oh, let me just take some one-offs from here and then you just end up hurting yourself more than helping, because you're just trying to spend the salary.
Right. I think if you're going to try to spend some of that salary, maybe it makes sense to upgrade a team slot. But I think both those series could be really bloody. So if you get wins out of those underdogs, I mean, I'm expecting that they're going to score well in wins. Like, I don't see them just barely getting by with like 15, 16 kills a game if they're going to win. Like, I feel like the upside is there for both of those teams, but it's just the safety isn't there, right? So
right. I will say
that mental block with the salary is something we allude to sometimes, and it always feels weird, because especially if you're used to playing other DFS sports, you might not spend all your salary, but you're never leaving 4,500 on the table, right? So it's just always like a little bit of a mental thing there.
Right. Leaving that much is just an indication that you got it wrong, and you just need to like figure something out. I will say, and not to call them out on the video here, but somebody posted their lineup today after the slate, where they played almost the exact same lineup I did: FPX, LGD, JDG, excuse me, and I played the JDG team slot, and he decided to go do the one-off and play the team that we thought was the safest with a BLG, and it's like it was a 30-point swing, but that move makes total sense. Like, you don't let the results affect the process, but like that made sense to like just take the highest scoring team slot. That made sense in terms of the odds.
It definitely makes sense, but at the same time, if you're going to play two underdogs in a stack, why not just play one of their team slots as well? Because you're already hoping that they're going to win the series by playing their players. So you might as well, play. It's just like, it's a little riskier going to a third team, because then you're asking for three things to go right instead of just two things. And in wins, these teams are going to score generally around the same price or around the same score if they win anyway. So yeah, I mean, I totally get why somebody would do that though, because maybe you're thinking like the players that you're playing are going to win 2-1. But if you can upgrade this team slot that looks like a slam dunk sweep, because we all thought BLG was probably a slam dunk sweep today.
Yeah.
I can't, it's not like that was a stupid thing to do or anything like that. It certainly wasn't. But yeah, it just adds a little bit of risk, at least, because you got to get three things right now instead of just two things.
I'll say I think 36 people had my lineup in the tournament I was in, so even just changing the team slot was helping the uniqueness anyway. But that's just bad luck. So E-Star averaging the third most deaths per game on the slate. But V5 right next to them at fourth. Of course, IG's after them, which do you think IG's like a popular underdog thought today? Like, if we all think that they're going to win, even though they're an underdog, is this when they're going to disappoint?
I think that they'll certainly be popular, right? Just because, they've got that upside and they're so cheap. I think you combine those things, and even if people don't think they're going to win, I'm not certain that they're going to win. I'd still give RNG the edge. It's just more you're more just taking a shot with IG at these prices and their upside, and I don't think that'll be a unique thought tomorrow. So I wonder if IG end up being more popular than RNG. In a lot of tournaments,
that's what I'm wondering.
Just because you're getting the salary savings and you're still getting upside if they do win. So IG are probably going to be pretty popular, especially for an underdog, I would think.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, particularly if you're totally sold on E-Star, then you can play either side of that one. You could play one E-Star with RNG, one E-Star with IG, and just go from there.
Yep.
Obviously, if E-Star drops, then you're dead. But that's...
being totally sold on E-Star is probably something you'll never actually be. But it's sort of the same story with them. It's just that they're cheap and they have upside if they win against another crappy team. So they're sort of in the same boat as IG, at least on this slate. It's just that it's opposite ends of the spectrum. The IG RNG is two pretty good teams, and V5 E-Star is two pretty crappy teams. But it's the similar situation where whoever wins that series should score pretty well, and it's why not take a shot at the underdogs, because you're getting some salary relief to go along with the upside, and it's not like you're asking a ton for either of those teams to win those series.
Speaking of asking for a ton, do you think there's any reason to play DRX or Sandbox?
So DRX, you could take a shot on because they're third in the LCK, right? They're not a bad team. They're not a great team, I wouldn't say either, but they're decent at least. So yeah. I wouldn't fault anyone for maybe taking a look at DRX. We do this a lot. It's hard to imagine them even in a win really scoring the highest on the slate, but we've said that in other matchups and then about teams before, and then they do end up being the highest scoring team. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's just harder to imagine them being the highest scoring team even in a win, because you're probably looking at a 2-1, and do they just come out and completely stomp Damwon? It's a little bit hard to imagine that happening.
After we just watched OMG stomp BLG.
Right, but BLG are a mid-table team, whereas
good point.
Damwon should be they're probably the favorite to win the league at this point because they've played the best. And if they didn't have, if Damwon didn't have that freak loss to Fred at Brion, they'd be 7-0, and we'd all be like, damn, they're awesome.
Yeah.
DRX can't touch these guys. It's just so Damwon losing that series gives us a little bit of pause, right? But so DRX, I think you could play them. I wouldn't expect a ton of upside with them, but who knows? Sandbox are looking like the worst team in the league. Even worse than Fred and Brion at this point. Those are the two really contending for the worst team in the league. I really thought Sandbox would be decent. Maybe they wouldn't make the playoffs, but they'd be just outside of the playoffs, and that is not coming to fruition at all. And Hanwha Life are up and down a little bit, but they've been mostly up, and it's hard to imagine them losing to Sandbox tomorrow. So I really don't like Sandbox at all, especially, if you look at their prices, you can get IG for just a little bit more. You can get E-Star for just a little bit more. So I don't really have any desire to look at Sandbox at all tomorrow, to be honest. But that said, I don't know if HLE are going to be the greatest spot either, right? Because we've seen them put up big kills in the past, so they certainly can do it, but they might not have to. So they seem like a pretty safe bet to 2-0. They might seem like the safest bet on the entire slate to get a 2-0, but so you factor in the games not played bonus, but if they only end the previous two games with 30 kills total,
right?
Maybe you're not getting quite the amount of upside that you want.
It does seem like DRX are good enough where Damwon will end up with more points than the possibility of whatever Sandbox puts up against HLE.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
At least that makes me like I said at the beginning, I haven't played. I don't think I've played a single HLE lineup yet. And early on, they were in some winning lineups, but it just seems like this is another situation where I'm like, well, I actually like the LPL teams better, and if I'm going to take an LCK team, I'll probably take Damwon just because I think DRX puts up more of a fight, and that should just solidify HLE as the highest scoring team tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, can't fault anybody for going there. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a stupid place to go at all, especially because you're going to be able to fit them in with these underdogs, that we like. So that could be an avenue people go for sure.
We have basically ignored LNG and Rare Atom. I'm probably ignoring them in my builds.
Yep.
Is there any reason? Is there a reason not to do that other than a lot of people will be ignoring them?
We look at that one and I think we both feel like that's the one that lacks upside.
Yeah.
The series. We're probably looking at a 2-1, right? And does either team really put up enough points to be worth playing? I'm not sure. I mean, they're priced really similarly, but it's not like you're getting a ton of salary savings with either side. So if you're going to play an underdog, why would you play Rare Atom instead of playing IG at similar prices, or even going to E-Star, just because we think those two series are going to be way higher scoring for the winner than this LNG Rare Atom one. I think this is also just such a close series that it's hard to call. So if I was going to go one way, I think LNG are probably going to win, but do they score enough points? I'm not sure. And same with Rare Atom, if they win, do they put up enough points? I'm not sure. I just, that one kind of feels like the winner's going to be the lowest scorer on the slate. So I think that's why we haven't paid too much mind to it. It's also the 2 a.m. game, so you wake up and one side smashed and you don't have them and you're dead. So go back to bed, I guess. But yeah, I mean that one just feels like the lowest upside series on the slate for the winner. But I like LNG, I think, to win. Better mid jungle duo, I think, and they're comparable in the bottom lane and top lane. So kind of like LNG there, but just don't see them as the team that's going to put up the highest points on the slate.
Yeah, I've got Rare Atom averaging the second fewest kills per game, LNG fourth fewest, LNG second fewest deaths per game.
Yeah.
So somehow they're just losing without dying. But Rare Atom first in deaths, meaning most deaths. So
right. It's just kind of like our LNG in a win, the team that's going to push for over 20 kills a game. I'm not sure that they are, and it feels like that one's going to be slow. It feels like that's going to be a series more akin to these Western series with in Europe and North America where teams are winning with 11 freaking kills, and it's like watching paint dry, man. That's how it feels. I mean, certainly they could, either side could blow up, and we wouldn't be like, wow, that came out of nowhere, but just feels like that's not going to be the one that really pops off tomorrow in comparison to these other series.
Totally agree. All right. We are going to take a little break because the LPL and the LCK are taking a break. So our next video will probably be Tuesday, February 16th, because the LCK comes back on the 17th. LPL comes back a few days after that. So thank you for everybody who has been tuning in to these videos every day to get kind of our thoughts on these slates. We've been enjoying doing them and appreciate all the comments that you guys are leaving. If you like this video as well, if you could just hit the like button below, that would be greatly appreciated. Feel free to also subscribe to all the RotoWire videos, although I totally understand if you want to wait until February 16th to do so, but feel free to do it right now if you'd like. I might be doing some additional videos just showing kind of how to navigate our site to get all of the League of Legends stuff, because a few people have been reaching out on Discord just asking where certain stuff is. So I'll have a video kind of directing you to that. If you are not a subscriber, which means you're not in the Discord, you can go to rotowire.com/pod, that's POD, to get 10 free days to the site. There's no credit card required. So you can get access to everything that we have on the site, all the sports that we cover, as well as access to that Discord chat. So please check that out. Ethan, thank you for that. Good luck on Sunday, and I will talk to you in a week and a half.
Yep, I've got 10 days to get a better microphone.